Hello, my name is Anuska and welcome to my channel. Now, on this week's video, I wanted to talk all about how to work with fear that comes up when you are stepping outside your comfort zone and you're preparing for a big event or meeting or presentation. So this is inspired by my own life and what's going on for me right now, because for those of you that don't know, as well as teaching voice and helping clients with their speaking voice, I'm also a singer-songwriter. And so this week I have my first live London shows, not only my first show since I returned to London, but also the first time ever I'm performing my own original music. So of course, this is a huge, huge deal for me, and it brings up a lot of my own fear and my own anxiety when I'm stepping outside in such a huge way. This is like totally outside my own comfort zone. So I want to talk a little bit about what we're really kind of seeing and how you can then use this to help yourself. So it could be that you have a really important meeting that you've got to present at. It could be that you're going for a big job promotion and you've got an interview. It could be that you are pitching to investors and it's really, it's a really important meeting for you. It could be that you've got an interview on TV. It could be anything where you feel like you're really stepping outside your comfort zone in a big way, and you're kind of really up leveling and going to the next level in your business or career. So just to understand a little bit more about fear, so we all have an ego mind or a survival mind, and this is the part of us that wants to keep us safe, that wants to ensure not only our physical safety, but our emotional safety, that we don't make a fool out of ourselves, that we don't get ridiculed or shamed or criticized. So it's helping us to kind of function and survive in the world. And so the ego is always trying to bring us back to the status quo, because by definition, we are still alive and kicking right now. So it knows that whatever we have experienced up to this point has kept us safe and kept us alive. Now, the only problem with that, of course, is if you are wanting to kind of go to the next level and do bigger and better things in the world, then you have to leave that comfort zone, which means that the ego is going to freak out. The ego is not going to like this. So this could be, as I said, it could be events like standing on stage for the first time and doing your first keynote speech. It could be, and I find this with many people I speak to, making a big investment in yourself. It could be, I want to work on my voice and I really want to go to the next level. But then you actually come to that moment where, do I spend the money? Do I not? Do I really make this investment? The ego will always come in and say, that's expensive. I don't think you should spend the money on that, or you don't have the time for that. So there'll always be an excuse that the ego finds to pull you back, because what it really fears is you actually leaving that comfort zone. And actually, really, for most people, it really fears our greatness and our success. So when we leave our comfort zone, we're no longer being compliant with the ego's stories. So if we have always thought, I'm not a public speaker, and then we're suddenly going to stand on stage and talk in front of a huge audience, then that goes against the stories that we might have been telling ourselves our whole life. So of course, the ego is going to fight back. So it's as soon as you leave that comfort zone, all your fears come to the surface. It's like all hell breaks loose. Now, what's really interesting and what I have found in my own life, and this is particularly what I wanted to share, is that can come up in many, many ways. And so we really want to understand what we're seeing so we don't buy into it as the truth. So for me, for example, whenever I go to the next level, so let's say, for example, this week, and I've got these big shows, never done anything like this before, singing my own music back in London. I haven't done anything like this before in London. So this brings up a lot. And for me, I normally find that there's some kind of physical pain that I get. So it could be like shoulder pain, it could be hip pain, it could be glute pain. There's always something that happens. And I know that it's my mind trying to pull me back and say, oh, this is bad, you shouldn't be doing this. And so I get kind of distracted by the pain. And we think because of this pain, it's something that we shouldn't be doing. So another way it can show up is, and I actually probably have both of these. So I'll often get this kind of physical pain. And then as soon as the quote unquote threat is over, as soon as the concert's over, literally the pain disappears. It's so bizarre. So a couple of years ago, I was doing some shows and I got this really strong nerve pain down my arm. So it went from my shoulder, from my neck, shoulder, and down my arm. Now, I never had anything like this before. It was so strange. And it was in the lead up to these shows. And I knew enough about my mind to know that it wasn't really about nerve pain. I mean, it was on the surface, but really it was an emotional thing that was coming up. And it was so funny because I tried literally everything. I went to see a myotherapist, I had massage, I had acupuncture. And even at one point, out of total desperation, I went and sat in one of those float tanks and I still had the pain. And I remember going into the concerts that night, and it was really excruciating actually by this point, but I didn't want to take painkillers because they're not great for the voice. So anyway, to cut a long story short, as soon as this concert was over, the pain disappeared. I mean, I'm not joking. It was literally, as soon as this perceived threat was over, the pain went. And so first of all, I think if you're experiencing any physical pain, know that it's not real in that sense, in that it's more about your own fear of going into something new. It can also show up very often as you get sick. And so I've had this too before. I've had a horrendous cold going into a show, and I've been in bed literally the day before and I can't breathe properly. I'm blowing my nose, maybe my throat is sore. And then literally the show comes and goes and it clears. So, you know, we know that there's the mind and body are inextricably linked. And so what the ego wants is for this to pull you back, for you to say, oh, I've got this pain, I can't do the show anymore. I've got a sore throat, I can't sing anymore. But actually, obviously, we take care of ourselves and we eat well and we get as much rest, etc., etc. But the important thing is we don't let it stop us. And that's what for a lot of us, it will do. It's like, I've got this pain in my arm, I've got this sore throat. That means I should cancel and not do it. And that's what the ego wants. And so it can often win this battle indirectly. The other thing that can show up as well is, you know, we get that sort of 2 or 3 a.m. kind of anxiety. We might wake up, feel a lot of fear, feel a tightness in the chest or the stomach. We might feel our heart going 10 to the dozen. We might feel butterflies in our stomach. This is all part of this fear that we're feeling, and it's not actually real. I mean, it is real in the sense that we're feeling it, but all it is it's energy that's trying to move out of us. And so what we tend to do, and this is where I think we can actually create more fear than actually allow the fear to release. Because we're feeling all of this, because we're getting sick and we've got this pain and we're feeling this anxiety, we think that we're not meant to be doing the thing. So it pulls us back and we go back. And or if it's a small thing that we have to do, let's say we have to talk in a meeting at work, but we really don't want to do it, we might be able to distract ourselves through it. We might have a glass of wine at night or put Netflix on or go to the gym, go for a run, like distract ourselves from the fear. But the fear doesn't go anywhere. It just sits in our body. And then the next time we step outside our comfort zone, that fear's now got more and more energy. So the first thing I think I really want to help you understand is it's not real. It's really when we step outside our comfort zone, all of this fear that's always been there that we've just never been able to see, because when we are compliant with the ego's quiet. When we step outside our comfort zone, particularly if we're taking big leaps, the fear is going to show up. And it can show up, as I say, in illness, in pain in the body, in physical pain, in 2 a.m. wake-ups where we feel like, the mind's going, you shouldn't be doing this. What are you doing? You're going to make an idiot of yourself. No one's going to come. No one's going to buy this. You're going to look like a fool. And we have all these thoughts. And at 2 or 3 a.m., it feels so real. Another thing someone said that I really liked, and I think this is really helpful when you're in this kind of state, is the mind can only measure what it's going to lose, not what you're going to gain. So when we're leaving our comfort zone and we're stepping into something greater, the mind is only measuring what you're going to lose, versus we can't even see what's possible. Like, you know, it's just incredible what is actually open to us if we allow ourselves to step through through this fear and allow this energy to move. So often I find that the fear is actually worse in our mind than the reality of it. And then, we do in my case, we do the concert and it's all fine. And then like, why was I worrying about this? So it's always the thought of it is worse than the reality. And actually we do the thing and then we're like, that was amazing. I want to do it again. So just remind yourself that the mind can only measure what it's going to lose, not what it's going to gain. And the mind is set up, the ego mind is set up to keep us safe, to keep us in the status quo. So anytime you're doing anything that could shake things up, the mind is going to resist. So what can you do? So I've got a few things here that help me, and I hope that they will help you as well. So first of all is to see it for what it is, that it's not real. It's your mind reacting to past conditioning, to what has happened in the past. And sometimes we haven't even experienced this thing in the past. Maybe we've never stood on stage before, but our mind is still coming up with all these stories about how terrible it's going to be and how we're going to make an idiot of ourselves. So just understand that it's just stories that our mind is creating. It's not real, but the stories are there to try and keep us safe. So one of the first things we can do is just to really embrace and accept it. So we're not pushing it away, but we're also not buying into it. We're just saying, thank you for showing me the fears that you're bringing up for me. Thank you. We don't have to kind of get entangled with them. We don't have to push them away, but we don't have to buy into them either. We don't want to make it wrong. I think that's really important, because what we do, and I certainly have done this in the past, we try and make these thoughts wrong. I shouldn't be feeling this. This shouldn't be happening. I shouldn't be, this shouldn't be happening to me now. So we tend to do that. We make things wrong. So the first step is really just to accept things as they are versus trying to run away from it or buy into it. The next stage, and I think this is really useful, particularly if you're someone like myself that tends to kind of be affected by the anxiety and the fear at night, and you tend to wake up a lot, is to just breathe into it. So really breathe into, really get in touch with, where am I feeling this in my body? So if it's an actual physical pain, like neck pain, shoulder pain, leg pain, or if it's the sensation of the fear, so it's the tightness in the chest, the tightness in the stomach, the heartbeat going 10 to a dozen, the butterflies in the tummy, the throat tightening, whatever you feel, just breathe into it and bring awareness to that part of your body where you're feeling the fear. Now, if you stay present with it, it will move. Remembering that fear is just an energy, and it's coming up so it can be released. And what we tend to do when we don't understand it is we don't like the feeling. So we push it away, we distract ourselves, we go to the gym, we go for a run, we put the TV on, we play with our children, we go and take the dog for a walk. We basically do anything we can to not feel the feeling. But I promise you, when you sit with the feeling, literally feel the feeling in your body without judging it, it will move. Now, it may feel worse initially, only because you're bringing more attention to it, but it is just energy that needs to move through you. And then the final part, and you can, do these simultaneously, or it depends how it shows up for you. So for me, when I'm in the thick of a real kind of fearful place, I'm waking up at 2 a.m. and my heart's going, I just bring awareness and I breathe into that part of my body. But what you can do when you're in a calmer place, so after you've done the sort of deeper breathing, is to really then visualize what you want to create. And this is really important. So we're not just working with the fearful energy, but we're also directing the mind into what we want to create, because our thoughts create our reality. So if, for example, we are standing on a stage for the first time, and this could be a metaphorical stage or an actual stage, and you are doing your first keynote speech, let's say, as an example, really visualize yourself standing on that stage. What are you wearing? How are you feeling? Feel as much of that experience as you can. So literally be in that experience now, versus, well, I can't experience that until I actually have the experience. The mind doesn't know the difference between what we visualize and what is in our reality that we see with our senses. So I can't underestimate the power of visualization. But I think if we just do the visualization without working with the fear and working with the feeling, then I think that's when that fear doesn't really go anywhere. It just builds, the energy just builds. And actually, sometimes then we can end up in a lot of pain, or we can get very sick. So I think doing these two things, working with the fear and holding this vision of what we want to create. So in my case, for my shows on Friday, it would be, I know what I'm wearing. I know what the venue looks like. I know what my band looks like. I know, the space. So I can literally visualize myself standing on that stage. I can hear myself singing in my head, and I know exactly what I'm going to feel like and what it's going to look like in my head. So you can do this too. You don't have to be singing. You could be going through what you're going to say roughly, how you want to feel, how the audience are going to react. Are people going to come up to you at the end? If it's a pitch, if you're pitching for business, are people, is it going to go well? Are people going to be really excited to hear from you? So really embody and be in that place now. Don't wait until the actual event to experience it. So I hope that's helped, because for me, it's, I'm constantly throwing myself off a proverbial cliff. I'm always experiencing this, which is why I want to share it, because as I said, I walk my talk all the time. I not only use my voice in high demanding situations, but I'm also constantly putting myself out there in ways that personally challenge me in massive ways. So I hope that's really helped. If you have any questions or comments, please post them below. If not, I will see you on my next video.